Yashadanandana Vajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Evam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivacharya Astatara Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthavutale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Name Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthavutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Name Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye नस्तपेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवते सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, the general history, Chapter 2, Maharaj Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras, text 27. Tan rochamanan swarucha brahmaputra upaman nava papracha paramapritaha prashraya avanataha nirpaha tandochamanan swarucha tandochamanan swarucha brahmaputropamam nava brahmaputropamam nava papracha paramapritaha papracha paramapritaha prashraya vanato nirpa prashraya vanato nirpa tanrochamanan swarucha brahmaputropamam nava papracha paramaprita prashraya vanato nirpa. Tandochamanan swarucha brahmaputropamam nava papracha paramaprita prashraya vanato nirpa. Tandochamanan swarucha brahmaputropamam nava papracha paramapritaha prashraya vanato nirpa. Ladies, tandrajamanam swarucha brahmaputropamam nava prashraya vanato nirpa. Ladies, tanrochamanan swarucha brahmaputropamam nava papracha paramapritaha prashraya vanato nirpaha. Tan, then rochamanan, glowing, swarucha, by their own effulgence, brahmaputra upaman, just like the sons of Brahma, nava, 9, papracha, he asked, paramapritaha, transcendentally overjoyed, prashraya, with humility, avanataha, bow down, nirpaha, the king, Translation purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Overwhelmed by transcendental joy, the king humbly bowed his head and then proceeded to question the 9 sages. These 9 great souls glowed with their own effulgence and thus appeared equal to the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. Please repeat. Overwhelmed by transcendental joy, the king humbly bowed his head and then proceeded to question the 9 sages. These 9 great souls glowed with their own effulgence and thus appeared equal to the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. Purport. Srila Sridhara Swami has pointed out that the word Swarucha indicates that the Navayogendras glowed from their own spiritual effulgence and not due to their ornaments or any other cause. The Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, is the original source of all light. His brilliantly glowing body is the source of the all-pervading Brahma Jyoti, the immeasurable spiritual light that is the resting place of innumerable universes. Yasha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti. The individual soul, being part and parcel of the Lord, is also self-effulgent. In fact, everything in the kingdom of God is self-effulgent. As described in Bhagavad Gita 15.6, Na tadvasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yat gatvana nivartante taddama paramam mama. It has already been described in many ways that the Navayogendras were pure devotees of the Lord, being completely Krishna conscious souls. They naturally radiated the intense effulgence of the soul, as indicated here by the word Swarucha. Srila Sridhar Swami has also pointed out that the word Brahma Putropaman, meaning equal to the sons of Brahma, indicates that the Navayogendras were on the same spiritual platform as the 4 exalted Kumara brothers. It has been described in the 4th canto that Maharaj Prithu received the 4 Kumaras with great love and reverence. And here King Nimi is similarly receiving the 9 sons of Lord Rishabhdeva. Receiving exalted Vaishnavas with love and reverence is standard spiritual etiquette for those who desire progress and happiness in life. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurjanmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Garati Vachalam Pangum Langete Girim Yadkripa Tamam Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramanandamadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwar Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododaya Pushpavanto Chitra Santo Tamorudo Tanrochamanam Swarucha Brahmaputro Pamannava Papracha Parama Prita Prashraya Vanato Nipa. Overwhelmed by transcendental joy, the king humbly bowed his head and then proceeded to question the 9 sages. These 9 great souls glowed with their own effulgence and thus appeared equal to the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. So here there's 2 things. One is the spiritual fact that the Navayogendras were so spiritually surcharged, you can say, that they were transmitting effulgence. And the second point is how such great and exalted Vaishnavas are treated, how one should treat them, and I think Brihat spoke yesterday also very much. So maybe we'll just touch a little bit and then we'll talk a little bit about the effulgence or something like that. Now if you look at the deities, and then you'll see that whenever we decorate them and so on, oftentimes when you're not looking at the deities with the love of affection or in the spiritual sense, you will think that the jewelries and all look so nice, But in actuality, the statement in the scripture says that the ornaments actually look good because Krishna is wearing them. The beauty is actually Krishna, and because of his effulgence, the ornaments take on a new dimension. So you tend to appreciate them in that. Not that they make Krishna look good. What is that? Apani Achari Prabhu. Jivera Shikhaya. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu says like that, that when we take on the Lord's teachings and so on, we also represent Him, and in the same way we are also like Him. And spiritually we will also be fused with His potency. So in that way, this is why we sometimes look at the deities and forget that it's actually the deities who are beautiful. Actually, without you have seen it, many of you, before we relaxed the rules of COVID, we were just dressing them without any much ornaments or decorations, and then you could have seen, and if you remember, they have beautiful features, exquisitely beautiful. Right. So here, in the Bhagavatam, the Kumaras were welcomed in terms of the etiquette by Maharaj Prithu, and Maharaj Prithu is considered to be the ideal king also. He governed very nicely, and he taught others by his personal behavior. So in terms of our own Krishna consciousness, most of us, we learn through what we observe, not so much as we read and we practice. There may be some. Occasionally you find some newcomer coming into the temple and we talk to them, they say, I've been chanting for so many years. All by yourself? Yeah, all by myself. So those exceptions are there. There are many out there also. But in general, for most of us, we practice because we see good examples. And society in general cannot say Krishna consciousness is great unless they see good examples. And so Maharaj Prithu, or Prithu Maharaj, was a good example. And similarly in our own temple, in Iskcon society, many great leaders, they are good examples. And so we want to emulate such good examples because it gives us a positive feeling emotionally, as well as we find that we are progressing in terms of our consciousness, in terms of relating to another living entity also. So those are all positive elements, and therefore we want to absorb those things. I want to be like that, that's cool, just like when you see an NFL football star or, NBA, oh, look at that, Michael Jordan, or I don't know who's now, who's the, nobody knows? You should know, then you can go out and preach. Shaquille O'Neal, no, he's still old, Huh? Okay, Curry or Curry, whatever his name is, Stephen or Stephen Curry, yeah. So you can see, and people, and young kids are all talking about they get their cards, right? All those cards and they collect. Because why? This is something they want to emulate. So similarly, Krishna consciousness is something we want to practice in such a wonderful fashion. must be happy. Don't go out with a long face and dragging around the place. People will say, I don't want to be like that. So we emulate in a nice fashion, and then people want to follow us. So Prithu Maharaj was an ideal king. He was like that. And how was his behavior so wonderful? When the 4 Kumaras came, he welcomed them, he gave them wonderful seat, and then he washed their lotus feet. Yeah, so when great devotees come, we should also do that. And then he took the water and sprinkled on his head. Yeah? There's a humility actually for a king to take the water or feet of that. A very similar case also, if you remember, in the European Christian tradition, Francis of Assisi, he exhibited so wonderful quality that the Pope himself came down from his seat, and then he lifted his Francis' feet and washed it actually. Yeah. So these are examples there, and when you see good examples, you want to be like that. And so yeah, the Kumaras are exceptional. They are actually Shakti Vesh, empowered by the Lord himself, the 4 Kumaras, for transcendental knowledge. So they travel just like Narada Muni is also empowered for bhakti, to give people bhakti. So in the tradition of Narada Muni, in the disciplic succession, we are all, by the blessings of Narada Muni, able to give bhakti to others, provided we also follow or emulate such practices in the same fashion. Yeah. So the Lord, so now I'll come to about the effulgence, So you see, whenever you shave, your skin becomes shiny, but that's just reflection. but the sages, when they walk in, they are effulgent, they are extremely effulgent. I remember myself when I first saw my spiritual master, I didn't know I was going to actually take shelter of anyone, but when I saw them, I was astonished. I say, how does this person look so different? So effulgent. Not just him, so he, Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Giridhari Swami, so they came, it was an initiation ceremony. My elder brother was taking initiation. I was sitting watching. I say, oh wow, look at these people. They look so effulgent. Sometimes Krishna allows us to see some things, to inspire in our hearts, so that to say there's something here, that you should pay attention. Maybe there's something you're missing out. So it was astonishing, it was beautiful, it was nice. And I was thinking, this is an amazing sight. And it also reminded me of when in Ramayana, the Indrajit, when he came with his forces, he was a magician. Indrajit was full of this Maya potency. So when he came to fight, he just covered the entire sky with darkness, clouds, and all kinds of magical tricks he was doing to get rid of the Vanara army. So it became dark. But both Ram and Lakshman ran forward to fight him, and it's described that they looked like stars in the night sky, effulgent, So spiritual potency is like that. And you may wonder, how is that? It's because the original personality of Godhead, he himself is like that. We are, Mama Vangsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are eternal fragmental parts of the Supreme Person. So he is effulgent. His effulgence comes out of him spontaneously, and that's called Brahma Jyoti. Varanti tattadvavidam tadvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabdyati. So the learned transcendentalists say this non-dual substance is manifested, has absolute truth, has 3 features. Brahman, the effulgence, Paramatma, the localized super soul in our hearts, and Bhagavan himself in the spiritual world, sitting there, waiting for us to come play with him. And here we are, Bahirmukha Jiva, we just turned away from him, so we are suffering here. So this effulgence is what is penetrating the entire spiritual sky, And it's in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, if you read carefully, it is said that even within these effulgence, the living entities, the jivas, are also there. And so they are also golden in nature. The color is so golden and effulgent in there. And they pervade, and in some places it is said that when the Lord appears, all these jivas who are in the Brahma Jyoti, they also want to come and serve him by surrounding him and making him look even more gorgeous. So it's just fascinating. And the Lord is like that. His nature, he's resplendent, he's radiant, he's glowing. With our mundane vision, we cannot see that. So in the Sri Ishonipash, right? Ishopanishad, it is said that Hiranya Mena Patrena. He says, you have covered yourself with this effulgence, my Lord. I can't see you, Please move from so that I can see you. So it is said that if you are a devotee, the effulgence actually doesn't stop you from seeing the Lord. It's only those who don't believe in the Lord will just see the light. So the impersonalists, they are always wanting the light. So that's all they will see. Right? And you can see nothing else. So if, let's say, the light in this room is like 1,000 times brighter, let's say it's cool, but brighter, you can't see one another. Everything is just too bright, you hardly can see anything. It's like looking at the sun, right? When you look at the sun, you can't see anything else. It's overwhelming. So the nature of this spiritual personality, Krishna, and anyone who becomes spiritualized, we also will exhibit such spiritual effulgence like that. It just emanates from the body. So it is said also in the Adi Leela, Brahmopanishadi tadapi asya tanuba. So the Upanishad describes that the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of the Lord. So we shouldn't just say it is the effulgence, we should also say this is described also in the Upanishad. They also agree that this is how it is. And then again, Krishnadas Kaviraj explains, that Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha. He describes the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Anarpita Charita, that verse. Okay. So the most beautiful Lord is resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. Have you seen molten gold? Maybe on TV or something like that. But that's what it is, just effulgent. When you say effulgence, it's coming naturally out of that. Like the light source, you can see. But it's not like the light source. Just that. I remember when in 1983-84, I was working at that time, a colleague of mine said he has a guru, who is a yogi. The guru is a yogi siddhi, and he was glorifying his spiritual master. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. So now I was talking about Prabhupada, So then he said, my guru, he sits in a place and then the whole place becomes light up, So he was a yogi siddhi and he could make his body, effulgence come out of his body. And so he said, wow. And then he was alluding to the fact that his guru was a god also, But that's all he could do. He could just create a little bit of effulgence, Big deal, We have big lights outside our parking lot, which is so much more brighter. So there are people who like that, And when you get old, you lose all the hair, and then your skin becomes tight and shiny. And like Jay Baldev here says, I used to travel with him, book this. He'll say, oh, look at that, chrome dome, So it's like that. So I never could understand that. Finally one day I realized he was talking about those things, because it reflects a lot of light, And so he was saying like that. But that's not that's not effulgence, it's just reflection. Again, I want to highlight, sometimes, a person, yogis and so on. Prabhupada says in India, so many people who claim to be God, and they do all kinds of this kind of exhibition, light source and so on. But the Supreme Lord is like that, There's so many statements. I'll give you another statement. Koti Surya Chandra Jini Donhara Nija Dama Sei Dui Jagatera Hayaya Sadaya. These two lords, who were millions of times more effulgent than the sun and moon, have arisen over the eastern horizon of Godo Desha, West Bengal, being compassionate for the fallen state of the world. So they are effulgent, beautiful like that. And in this verse also, they have in the purport it is said, Yasha Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Koti Sasesha Vasata Adi Vibhuti Binnam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That the Lord, who is very powerful, He is complete and unlimited, He displays countless varieties of His potency and planets and universes, and they are all covered with His effulgence in the spiritual world. So each planet in the spiritual world is self-illuminating. There's no need for a light switch. Here, remember in February when the cold freeze came, power went out, everyone was so miserable, But the spiritual world is self-effulgent. Light is there, the weather is just good. It's not like over here, hot and cold, no? Now it's so hot, and immediately everyone is saying when the cold weather will come back. As soon as the cold weather comes back, they'll say, when is the summer coming back? It's like weird, If you think about it, It was just a few weeks ago and they were saying, where's summer? And then now summer, they're saying, where's winter, we get bewildered by all these dualities, the heat and cold, happiness and distress, all these things. But if we become spiritual, then we don't have to worry about all these things. Just like when you all had your kirtan, you didn't have to worry about anything. You just have to jump up and down and just, who gives a damn about the world? Right? It's pleasant. It's wonderful. And the Lord appreciates that, This is what we are meant to do. The living entity is meant to be happy in the service. You can never be happy doing anything in the material world, unless it's connected with Krishna. And that's a very important point. We should think like that. So this Brahman that comes from Krishna, originally in Goloka, spreads all over the spiritual realm and comes all the way to the material realm, but it doesn't penetrate directly. It goes around the material. It's in one corner of the spiritual realm is the material world, universes, and it's a very dark corner. Everything here is dark. So in that sense, darkness also indicates ignorance. You don't know what is right, what is wrong, what is the truth, you do not know. So the Lord, out of His compassion, He comes through this dark covering of this material world, both as His plenary expansions, as well as His effulgence comes through the sunlight. Okay? So the sun, the Surya that you see is actually a very tiny portion of the Brahma Jyoti. Very, very tiny portion. And because we are so materially conditioned with material body, we can't see even the sun. You go blind. Right? So we have to wear special glasses and so on and so on. And to this Brahman Jyoti, the effulgence, instead of having a relationship with God as a person, there are people who, due to the ignorance in this material world, covered by ignorance, want to merge in this effulgence. They just want to merge in the effulgence. But what can they do in this effulgence? They can't do any kind of service. There's four kinds of liberation. when one understands transcendental Lord, and then when they try to pursue in trying to come towards Him, there's 4 types of liberation that the Lord gives. Anyone can tell? One, just give one,
Having a form like Krishna. Having a form like Vishnu.
That is Sarupya.
Salokya, living in the same planet.
Living in the same planet.
Living closer to the Lord.
Samipya. And Prabhu was saying, Sayuja is not Sayuja, but it's an impersonal liberation. And last one is Shashti, means having the same opulence as the Lord. So in the Vaikuntha planet you can see that. Okay, you can see the Lord's gorgeous palaces and gardens and birds, bees, all kinds. It's so beautiful everywhere. We have marble floor. He has Chintamani floors. Wish-fulfilling gemstones everywhere, gold everywhere. So if you really want to earn money and have lots of opulence, go to Vaikuntha, man. Don't waste your time trying to get all this here. It's a waste of time here. So the 5th liberation, which is Sayujya, is not accepted by Vaishnavas because you can't have a relationship, It's just like you go into a room, lock yourself in there and say, I am happy. After a few minutes you want to come out and look for someone to associate with, right? By nature we want to have association. So a devotee never cares for such liberation. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nilamada Ki Jai. Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. So this liberation is 2 types. One is the favor of the Lord. When the Lord favors you, you get one of those 4 liberations. When the Lord is not favorable, then you get to go into the corner. Stay there. Don't come out. That's a Brahma Jyoti liberation. So you don't want that. You're being naughty, go to the corner. So you don't get to associate with the Lord like that. This effulgence is also known as Brahma Loka sometimes, if you read the books. So you have to be very careful. Sometimes it means Brahma's planet, but sometimes it also could mean the Brahma Jyoti. Sometimes it also could refer to Krishna's planet also. So you have to be careful how you read it. But at other times, in some other books, it is also known as Siddha Loka. Those who mystic potency, ultimately they want to merge with the Supreme. So they also get into this Brahman effulgence. So the yogis who meditate on the Super Soul, they want to merge with the Lord, also get transferred to this Brahma Jyoti. Okay? So when you read the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and you wonder where they go, that's where they go actually. So the impersonalism is also just meditating on the impersonal form or meditating on the Super Soul with the intent of merging with Him. Okay? So that also will take you back to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Ultimate destination is there. Okay? But for us as devotees, we want to serve. We want to make garlands. We want to make nice prasad for the Lord, bhoga from the Lord, We want to go out, tell people, come, have nice meal, dance and have fun, If you read the Brahma Samhita, towards the end, it is described, Goloka Vrindavan is a place where every step is a dance, every word is a song, like that. That's all they do in the spiritual world. Have fun, 24/7. But we don't want that. Rather we rather stay here and work hard. And Prabhupada says, those who work hard are like mudhas. Mudhas means like donkeys. The reason they say that is that the mule or the donkey is, if you are in India, you see, the whole animal is piled up like, 3-4 stories, and the poor donkey is like, balancing act. and it's trying to traverse the pathways, and it's doing just for some grass, and everywhere on the pathway that it's working, full of grass. And it's thinking, if I do this, my master will give me grass, and he'll give him some dry piece, a little bit, and that's it. He's happy. So that is life, working so hard, day in and day night. They don't know that they are missing out in this wonderful place that we should go back. It is very important to appreciate, and that's why Srila Prabhupada wanted his devotees, his disciples to read the scriptures. Very important. So all of you should read. So then the more you read, the more you are glorifying the Lord also. And then you get purified and your consciousness get clear and you understand what should be done and what shouldn't be done. When you don't do that, then you develop demoniac qualities. That means you go against the principles of existence. So what is the goal of human life? 99% do not know. Or if they know, they ignore it. Naradamas. Yes, Krishna calls them Naradamas. They know, they do the devotion a little bit, and then they say, I don't, it's not for me. I don't get what I want, So they reject it. Naradamas. Lower than a human, like that. It's sad, but that's how it is. Yeah. So that's why when we sometimes the prayers to the Lord, you are wondering, oftentimes the worshipper prays the Lord as effulgent, radiant, golden complexion. All it means is they emanate this glorious, beautiful, wonderful, I don't want to say light, but something that is spiritual that comes out. You can see them, you can feel them actually. And that's what I was alluding to earlier on when I first saw some devotees and my own spiritual master. They had this quality. And actually, every one of you who are following nicely, as you become purified, you will also exhibit that thing. I remember once doing books in a railway station, people were just saying, how come you're so happy? How come you look so radiant like that? They would use words like that, And I'm thinking, I look the same, Because from our point of view, they haven't changed, But they can see that because you are connected to the Spirit. And that's what we are. We are spiritual by nature. So the more we are connected, the more we exhibit those wonderful qualities. And therefore we should continue exhibiting that. So even the great devotee Hanuman said he didn't want to have anything to do with the effulgence of the Lord. He said, if I were to go into the effulgence, then how can I serve my Ram, I don't want that, he said. I can't even conceive of that notion of wanting to merge. Because the joy of doing service is you cannot count, You cannot understand the joy of serving directly to the Lord in His personal form than simply meditating about Him in His impersonal form. The comparison is given like the Lord's toe nail. The Brahma Jyoti is like the one toe nail. So you're going to serve the toenail or you're going to serve the person. So that's how the comparison is. And similarly, the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he first met in Varanasi, there were all these Brahmins and sannyasis who were impersonalists. So they had a big meeting. So they saw Mahaprabhu, he was so beautiful and wonderful. They said, you're a sannyas, why don't you come and join our meeting? We'll have big discussion. So the Lord went there for the meeting with Prabodhananda Saraswati, right? Yeah. And then while he was there, at first they never paid attention to him because he's a young sannyasi. So he went in the corner and he washed his feet, his lotus feet, and then he sat next to the place where they were washing. And as he sat, he exhibited his brilliance. So all of a sudden he became so effulgent, and all the sannyasis were looking at him and they say, he's somebody, we thought we were somebody, but he is really somebody. So they all crowded around him. Who are you? You're such a young, dumb sannyasi. So sometimes the Lord even uses such exhibition to attract these fallen souls, So then they inquired, and then they got liberated by appreciating the Lord's beauty like that, So, and then just like Krishna has his effulgence, I was reading, I didn't get to understand what that personality is. They said that even in the Vrindavan, Krishna's effulgence is a person. So I didn't get to find out the name. And then I was reading also in another place that Radharani's effulgence is also a personality. So she comes out, and then in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, Radharani's effulgence co-joins with Lord Balaram's one girlfriend, and came as Sri Gadadhara Prabhu. Not Gadadhar Pandit, So I was amazed. I said, wow, that's interesting. Like that, So Srila Prabhupada writes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani says, my dear friends, has Krishna, Cupid personified. So Mahaprabhu is in the mood of the gopis, so he's speaking in his ecstasy. He's saying, my dear friends, has Krishna, Cupid personified, who has the effulgence of a kadamba flower. Have you seen a kadamba flower? It's golden yellow. It's very fragrant. You don't see much. You find big ones in Mayapur, in Bengal, but in Vrindavan it's much smaller. So there are two types of it. But these flowers that even Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani love. So kadamba flower is always connected to Srimati Radharani, and tamal tree is connected to Krishna, like that. So anyway, when Prabhupada first came here, the devotees were very excited, and then they used to come and see. And if you listen to the conversations of such devotees, right, they do a lot of recording, you should listen to them. And then many times they always say that Prabhupada had an effulgence. Almost every one of them say that. That when they were sitting there looking in Prabhupada, they said they saw this effulgence. Some of them say it was bright, some say it is soft and subtle and it's exotic. They were like, wow, and yet they seen that this light came out and touched them, and they felt something different. It's fascinating. There probably is a science behind that, and we probably don't have enough time to talk about that also. And Sutta Kirti, maybe Hari, he says that, that he was sitting with Prabhupada, and through his corner of his eyes he saw the effulgence coming from Prabhupada. It is amazing, isn't it? He saw that effulgence expanding and shrinking and expanding and shrinking. That's fascinating. And then he said, when he saw that, he felt in his life he didn't want to do anything. He just wanted to be with Prabhupada. And in the Krishna book, one devotee read that Krishna is bluish like the rain cloud. So he told Prabhupada, Krishna is bluish like the rain cloud. Then Prabhupada said, the effulgence of Krishna comes into this material world, and that's why the sky is blue. So it's amazing, right? So even there's another pastime where Prabhupada is in I think he was in Venezuelan Airlines, so they were flying, so all the devotees were sitting around Prabhupada. Sutta Kirti Prabhu mentions how the stewardess was walking up and down, then she saw Prabhupada, she said, you guys look different, you look very bright, And then Prabhupada ate some, nuts or something, prasad, puff rice. So then she said, what is that, puff rice? And she grabbed it from Prabhupada's plate and she popped it in. And Prabhupada just smiled at her. So he affects everyone. If you are doing Krishna consciousness nicely, you will affect people. You will. You see that. Their consciousness will transform into the positiveness. Like that. Now there was a devotee during the first few months when Prabhupada first started the program, 1969, 68, 69, yeah. And Dr. Mishra. So the Anand Ashram. So Prabhupada was going and helping, and this guy is a big Mayavadi. So one day he left town in New York, so Prabhupada conducted the classes. So at that time some of these boys came, Keith, Wally and Howard. Keith became Kirtananda Swami, Wally became Umabhati Swami, and Howard, I can't remember, but anyway, Howard, he recollects that the Swamiji went into the guest room to sleep in the night. The program ended late. So they slept outside. So they were looking at the starry sky. So he said he couldn't sleep, and then he was just looking at the stars. After every now and then when he opened his eyes, the constellation kept changing position. So finally he said he fell asleep. And then right about morning, just as the sun was coming out, he said he had a dream. So in the dream he saw this effulgent golden youth sitting, and then around him all of them were sitting. And so Howard was sitting there, and he asked the others, who is this person? And then the other people were like, all the others were sitting around and said, don't you know? That's Swamiji. So then Howard in the dream, he looked at Swamiji, he said, no, he doesn't look like that. Why doesn't he come in this form? It's so beautiful, it's so pleasing, it's so beautiful and nice. Why doesn't he come here? When he started thinking, why doesn't he do that? Why didn't he come like that? Everyone would come to him. So then he heard from within himself, he heard, if I come like that, then people will be attracted to my beauty and not to my teachings. And then he woke up and it was daytime. So I'll stop here. Otherwise, they will attack me. So any comments, questions, reflections? Yes, please. Patrick Knight.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for that nice class. That story about the stewardess, there's actually a continuation from where Shrutakirti Prabhu was telling the story in a I don't know where he was telling it, but one of the devotee boys in the class heard and wanted to tell him a Sankirtan story afterward, and he was saying that he was in Brazil doing distribution in villages far from all the cities, and they were doing Harinam, and then at a certain point they did door to door, and he went to one of the doors, and a woman answered, and she saw that he was wearing dhoti and kurta and everything. He was like, oh, come in. And when he went in, he was seeing that there was pictures of Krishna and an altar and everything. And he was like, oh, you're a devotee. How did you become a devotee? And she said, I first met devotees was when I met Srila Prabhupada on an airplane. I was a stewardess. And it was the same woman 10 years later. She was a devotee on her own in a village in Brazil.
Yeah, that's what happens if you take the Mahaprasadam. Yeah.
I had a question about liberation. So it said that a devotee doesn't desire any type of liberation.
Yes.
Even Salokya, which is to go to the same planet as Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada so often talks about going back home, back to Godhead, and so I was wondering, should devotees desire to be on the same planet as Krishna and go back to Godhead?
Yeah, we want to be with Krishna. Yeah. So that's a positive there. Affirmative. Yeah. Yes, Patrick.
I was wondering, for a new person who may come across that point that there's no happiness in the material world,
yeah.
A new person may see that point and have doubts. How would one actually alleviate that understanding. If they don't have any realization that sense gratification is suffering, how can one help them to understand that there is no happiness here?
Well, they are suffering, right? So they themselves should know. But generally, the people you meet are covered due to the very strong influence of the material energy. So they cannot see that, They rather see the interruptions of their miserable life. So they only realize, I'm happy, I will get happiness. But they never acknowledge that I'm always miserable, As a devotee, in my experience, I feel very strongly it's association. And in associating, you give them a lot of affection. Show them that you are their well-wisher. Yeah. And in that relationship, it will awaken them, because when they are with devotees, they get purified, just simply being around devotees, because your effulgence will touch them. And they will connect with you, and they will understand you are their well-wisher. Yeah. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhav Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Dajantai Gauri Chandi Iskcon Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, give good association. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. Jeffrey, right? Jeremiah. Yeah, that's a biblical name, no? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. So my question is of line of association. What if one finds oneself feeling as if...
Take out your mask, yeah.
So what if one is not good association? Like in the sense of myself, for instance. I'm not the best associate, I'm not good at socializing. And so how could I improve such things so that I could be a better ideal example of Vaishnavism or devotee life?
Bhaktivinoda Thakur says everything, is... If you want to be enthusiastic, you hang around with people who are enthusiastic. If you want to be fired up, then you be with someone. So if you want to be a cook, you hang around with a cook. And Prabhupada says, if you want to be a drunk, hang around with drunkards. Yeah, so if you want to give good association, you learn how people treat you, and then you treat in the same way others, in the same fashion. And if you feel you're still shy and introverted, bring cookies with you, Yeah, so, you give a nudge and they look at you, you just give a smile and give a cookie. Yeah. And they'll say, this guy is so cool, man. So next time they'll stand with you, hoping for a next cookie. Hare Krishna. Okay, last question, otherwise I'll be hanged.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Well, I heard somewhere that some of the glitter in the effulgence of the Lord is the individual souls who...
I mentioned that in the beginning.
Oh, I heard somewhere that the effulgence of the Lord, some of the glittering is the individual souls who go and merge into the effulgence, and they also shine, individual soul.
Yeah, I mentioned it very in the beginning. But the Jiva Atmas are also in this Brahma Jyoti also. And yes, it includes Jivas who have already taken birth and gone and merged there, as well as others who are coming through the effulgence. Everything is coming from Krishna. Yeah. So sometimes...
You gave the example of how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to see the Mayavadis, impersonalist, and he was sitting by the shoes, and they got attracted because Mayavadis are attracted to the
effulgence.
Yeah, the shine. So that's why.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So all of you are, bona fide effulgent devotees, so you all should go and mix nicely. Always be compassionate in that way. People are going to make it life difficult, but see through all that, because it's all material coverings, and see if you can touch the heart. There's many ways, but learn. If you can't do it one way, think, and the Lord in your heart will reveal how to do that. Okay, thank you very much. Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramanandi, Hari Hari Bol.